Hey everybody, good morning. As you can see, the sun coming up behind me. It's early in the morning, heading down to Grand Lake. Got a Fish the Moment instructional on the water lesson today. We're going to be doing some jerkbait fishing down there at Grand. Should be a good day, typical winter day, partly cloudy, high around 40. Going to be a little cold, but fish ought to be biting a little bit. But hey, just a couple different things before we get started out here with today's tip. Just wanted to remind you guys once again, we got our Fish the Moment instructional jerkbait virtual seminar coming up January 7th from 6 to 9. You can sign up on fishthemoment.com. Also check out our lake map breakdowns. We're getting ready to convert from our winter breakdowns over to our spring maps starting in January 1st. So anybody wants a spring map of your favorite lake, check it out on the website there, the fishthemoment.com website. You can get you one there. But today's topic a little bit, what I want to talk about is the whole phenomena of YouTube, basically YouTube fishermen, information that you can get on YouTube, all the fishing YouTubers. Now, you know, this is new to me a little bit. I mean, I'm doing YouTube videos now. I started my YouTube channel probably, it's been about a year and a half ago, I guess, close to 2 years, year and a half ago or so. And I got in late at the game. I mean, a lot of these, you know, people that got into YouTube have been doing it for 5 or 6 years now. And, you know, you've noticed if you guys, you know, are on my channel and you follow YouTube fishing, you've seen there's so many out there. And a lot of the YouTubers that you see out there are probably guys you've never even heard about before. You know, I think it got famous where you had some basically kids strapped on a GoPro and they started fishing ponds and, you know, wading creeks and that type of stuff, and just there's some big followings that, you know, some of these kids got, you know, from a lot of the 18 to 25 year old range. And then he started having, you know, pros started having some YouTube channels, and you got so much out there, you know, as far as to choose from. And so the question for today's video is, you know, who's the best YouTuber out there? Who's got the best YouTube fishing channel? Who's just the ¡1 YouTube fisherman out there? And the answer that I have to that is everybody. Everybody out there that has a YouTube channel has got something to teach and something to share. And I can share something with y'all based upon me fishing professionally for over 30 years in the pro-am format, where I fished with a bunch of you know weekend anglers, what people would consider amateur anglers, and you know, so I've been around a lot of different anglers with different skill levels. And back, you know, 25 years ago, the co-anglers, they weren't like they were today. Today's co-anglers are as good as professional anglers were 20 years ago. The level of knowledge and equipment that they have, you know, now is unbelievable. Back when I started, you know, back when the Pro-Am started and I first was fishing the Pro-Am events, I had guys show up all the time to tournament with me in my boat. I had some guys that would bring a 2-piece spin cast outfit. They'd have like a Zebco 33, and they'd get in the boat with me, and they'd have their rod in 2 pieces. They wouldn't even have the rod set up yet. So they'd get out there, excuse me, and, you know, we'd pull up to our first spot, and they'd like start putting their rod together, and, you know, they'd have the 8-pound test mono that was on there from the store, and, you know, little tackle boxes, and I had a bunch of them that would say, like, you know, 11 o'clock noon, they'd say, but when are we going to stop for lunch? And I'm like, dude, we're not stopping for lunch. You know, we don't stop for lunch here. So things have progressed a lot. But the point being, when you're talking about, you know, learning something from fishing YouTubers and learning something from anglers in general, is you can learn something from absolutely anybody out there. I don't care if you've got a 6-year-old kid that has a YouTube channel, or if you've got, you know, one of the top pros in the United States having a YouTube channel. There's information that can be gained from everybody. Because the thing about fishing is nobody has it figured out. Fish and this is one of the most frustrating things to a lot of people that initially get into bass fishing. Bass fishing, they don't read books. They're unpredictable. Nobody knows what will trigger bites from day to day. So the thing that is important in bass fishing and the information that you can get on YouTube from these YouTubers that you may never have heard of is the whole idea of creativity and ingenuity, trying something different that you wouldn't try. Here's a prime example I'll give you guys. And I could give you tons of examples, but I've seen this over the years of working. I was at a tournament at the Harris Chain, an FLW tournament. It's been 5 or 6 years ago now. And if y'all have ever fished in Florida, when you're in a situation where you're pitching and flipping, you know that most 99% of the time you're using either some type of a black and blue or June bug color, for your pitching and flipping. And of course, we get out there, and I was flipping lily pads in this tournament. And I had a pretty good bite going, and I was flipping in that particular tournament. I was flipping like a black and blue brush hog, and I had a June bug brush hog, and I was catching some on a June bug Z hog. Just the typical Florida stuff. So anyway, we get out there, and my co-angler that day, he had a watermelon trick worm with a bright chartreuse tail on it. I'm talking like a chartreuse tail that looked like the end of a Sharpie pen. It wasn't like a translucent one. It was bright chartreuse, and the watercolor was dirty where I was flipping. You could only see maybe 6 inches down. So he had this watermelon worm that basically disappeared as soon as you put it in the water. It blended in with the watercolor, and you couldn't see anything. The only thing you could see was a little bit of this chartreuse tail on the worm. And I'm like, I didn't say anything to him. I'm like, that guy's not going to catch nothing on that watermelon worm in this muddy water. So about 5 minutes later, I was wanting some of those watermelon chartreuse-tailed worms. He started kicking my butt on this watermelon worm in that muddy water. He had a limit in the boat, a limit of fish in the boat flipping on that thing before I even had a bite on my June bug worm. And so, that's a prime example of you get locked into something as an angler and think you know that you really don't, and that you can gain access and you can gain information from somebody that even does not have that much experience. So my advice, what I'd give everybody when you're talking about YouTubers and you're scrolling through YouTube trying to find fishing channel information, don't bypass anybody. Try to absorb as much as you possibly can from everybody off of YouTube. I don't care who they are. They can be as goofy sounding, as goofy acting, as all get out, and they may seem like they don't know nothing about fishing, but I can promise you, if they're doing something and they're catching bass on it, there's value to that information, because bass fishing is all about assimilating information. It's all about assimilating information, and it's about being able to apply that information under specific scenarios, under a specific set of circumstances. And we get so locked into what we think is going to work or what doesn't work that limits our success to a huge degree. And if you guys saw the video I did last week I was talking about age and in relation to bass fishing, and how when anglers get older, a lot of times they tend to fall off on their success versus what they had earlier. So much of that is due to a limitation on your creativity and your ingenuity. And a lot of these people out there that just get into fishing, even YouTubers, even these guys, these kids, these 20-year-old kids that started these YouTube channels that fish off the bank, they don't know any better. Like the dude I fished with the Harris Chain, he didn't know that the bass in dirty Florida water are not supposed to bite a watermelon chartreuse-tailed worm. He didn't know that, so he just tried it. So that's the value that you can get from YouTube, is basically picking up on other people's creativity and ingenuity and applying it to your own fishing. So biggest advice I'd give everybody out there, is pay attention to anything that's new. take true and tried advice, true and tried techniques, and incorporate it in with that fresh, innovative ideas. And if you do that, you're going to stand a lot better chance to, be successful day in and day out. Another example is just like the jerkbait fishing down here that we're going to be doing at Grand Lake. I've got, under these conditions, Grand Lake, you've got this water visibility that's going to be like in the 2-foot range. And I fished Grand Lake for so many years that I've got my favorites. I've got my favorite colors of jerkbaits that I like to use under these conditions. But my favorite colors, even though I've caught tons and tons of bass on them, they also become a limitation if I cut myself off from experimentation with other colors and profiles. So you have to be really careful not to do that. But anyway, that's today's YouTube video. To answer the question, who's got the #1 YouTube video out there, the #1 YouTube angler? There is none out there. Everybody does. Everybody out there has got, information and value that's unique to themselves and uniquely their own. And that's the great thing about bass fishing, is we all have abilities that other people don't have. The way that you approach a certain stretch of water is not the way that I'm going to approach that particular stretch of water also. And on some days your approach may be more successful than mine, just based upon a lot of different conditions. So anyway, keep an open mind out there, learn from what you can. If you got, if you see a 6-year-old catching some bass on a rooster tail or whatever that, absorb that information. You might try it sometimes. You never know what's going to work. So anyway, I'm going to get down here at Grand. I'm going to get on the water, get some warm clothes on, try to get some jerkbait fish. Appreciate you guys tuning in. You haven't had a chance, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Hit this like button if you like the video. And we'll talk to y'all later on. See you.